Engines 1.5 and 1.6 belong to the 4A family. The 1.5-liter 4A91 engine turned out to be rather weak for a car. To drive more or less actively, drivers squeeze all the juice out of it, and as a result, the engine life rarely exceeds 150,000 kilometers. When working in extreme conditions, active waste of oil occurs. Its products clog the lubrication channels and the pistons, then the oil scraper rings coke. As a result, oil consumption becomes critical. The owner sooner or later forgets to add it on time, and oil starvation sets in, finally finishing off the engine. To increase the reliability of the unit, the manufacturer has released upgraded rings. But this did not radically solve the problem, since the main reason is ruthless exploitation. The aluminum block of the 4A91 engine has factory repair dimensions, but such original spare parts, for example, pistons and rings, are difficult to find in Russia. It's good that there are enough good substitutes on the market. Motor 1.6, 4A92, was installed on Lancer only in 2012. Cars have not yet dashed off solid runs, and the engine has not shown itself in a bad way. However, servicemen are skeptical. The units belong to the same family and are structurally very similar. It's good that the 4A engine range has no other weak points. Engines 1.8 and 2.0 are from the 4B family. They are practically devoid of soars and have a good resource by today's standards, 180,000 to 200,000 kilometers. In particular, the 2.0 engine, 4B11, speaks well of professionals involved in engine overhauls. For motors of all types, the usual life of the attachment belt and its rollers is from 100,000 kilometers, and the engine mounts live much longer than the previous Lancer. On modifications with a 1.5 engine, an electric power steering is installed, built into the steering rack. On machines of the first years of production, it is very rare, but there were system failures. The amplifier either completely turned off, or worked only when the steering wheel was rotated in one direction. Attempts to repair did not bring the desired result and, as a result, it was necessary to replace the steering gear assembly with second-hand ones. In general, the electric amplifier on the Lancer does not cause trouble. Unlike Subaru, Ford, and Mazda, Mitsubishi's electric racks are reliable. Knocks are not about them. On versions with engines 1.6, 1.8, and 2.0, a classic power steering is installed. Sometimes a leak of the return line from the rack to the pump pops up. The rubber tubes are frayed at the points of attachment to the steering mechanism. It is important to replace the power steering fluid in accordance with the regulations, every 90,000 kilometers. By this run, the products of natural wear in the lubricant are already decently clogging the filter mesh in the pump reservoir. Alas, a good picture with the reliability of rails of both types is spoiled by a low resource of steering rods and tips, on average, a little more than 60,000 kilometers. Like its predecessor, the rear silent blocks of the front levers do not differ in an enviable resource, only 60,000 kilometers go. They can be replaced separately, but at about 90,000 kilometers the ball joint dies, which is only assembled with the lever. Therefore, if the rear silent block breaks, it is more rational to replace the lever assembly. Front shock absorbers run an average of 120,000 kilometers. When replacing them, the thrust bearings are also updated so as not to remove the nodes once again. Front and rear stabilizer bushings, consumables. They are changed every 30,000 kilometers. The front stabilizer struts are also not very tenacious. The resource is about 40,000 kilometers. Like its predecessor, the 10th Lancer brake mechanisms have to be serviced with each replacement of the pads, clean the guides and the caliper brackets, lubricate the fingers. This is especially important for rear brakes. Without prevention, the mechanisms quickly turn sour. The pads stop moving away from the disc, which means increased wear and overheating. Squeaks and other extraneous noises are inevitable. With a working system, the front pads run 30,000 to 50,000 kilometers, and the rear pads run about 90,000 kilometers. The rear suspension of 1.5 and 1.6-liter modifications is deprived of a stabilizer, but it can be retrofitted. The mounting holes are unified. In silent blocks, the camber and toe adjustment bolts turn sour rather quickly. Alas, there is only one prevention: to check and adjust the wheel alignment every 60,000 kilometers. If you miss the moment, the repair will cost much more. The resource of the converter and oxygen sensors is at least 100,000 kilometers. Most often, Lambda probes fail due to an open circuit in their internal heating circuit. Original sensors are very expensive, so servicemen use cheaper, but decent Denso counterparts. To save money, sintered cells are often pierced at failed converters, and a blend is installed on the second Lambda probe, which controls the efficiency of the system. This is a small spacer between the sensor and the exhaust gas flow. It has a kind of small honeycomb neutralizer built into it, which successfully imitates the operation of an expensive node. After 100,000 kilometers, the exhaust pipe ring burns out. This is a common ailment. The exhaust system immediately raises the voice. Achilles heel of the 10th Lancer, Cvt. It is only available for versions with 1.8 and 2.0 engines. Even with proper maintenance and operation, the Variator lives on average only 150,000 kilometers. A full and qualified repair implies the mandatory replacement of many expensive parts, and the final restoration price tag reaches 120,000 rubles. Therefore, used Variators are in great demand on the market. There are enough offers, and the price is tolerable, 60,000 rubles. The Lancer is equipped with the Japanese Jatco JF011E unit. They are equipped with Outlanders and many models of the Renault-Nissan concern. In addition to the negligent attitude of the owners, the lifespan of a whimsical transmission is greatly reduced by the unfortunate location of its cooling radiator. On pre-styling models, it stands under the bumper, practically on the front left wheel liner. As a result, it quickly becomes overgrown with dirt, and the Variator overheats. Therefore, the radiator has to be dismantled and flushed before each summer season. There are pitfalls here. The assembly is subject to corrosion. Even when you first remove the hoses from its fittings, there is a high risk of breaking them, and by 120,000 kilometers they completely rot. A new radiator costs 20,000 rubles, so the serviceman picked up an analog from Kia/Hyundai cars, which is almost 3 times cheaper. Surprisingly, when the Lancer was restyled in 2010, the Cvt Cooling Radiator was removed altogether, just like on the Outlander. The transmission began to overheat even more. Fortunately, a rescue scheme has been worked out. The radiator is put in the former regular place, using the same Korean analog. Or they select a radiator that is suitable in terms of parameters and take it out in front of the main regular ones. In both cases, it will be necessary to replace the Variator heat exchanger housing with the pre-reform one. In the modern version, it has only 2 outlets for antifreeze lines circulating through the engine cooling system, and 2 additional ones are needed for a new oil circuit. It is very important to change the oil in the Cvt at least once every 90,000 kilometers. This is in the presence of an oil cooler. If not, the interval should be halved. When replacing, it is advisable to remove the pan in order to assess the amount of chips, wear products, on its bottom and on special magnets. This allows you to judge the health of the Variator and roughly estimate how much he has left to live. They also evaluate the condition of used Variators before buying them. Prolong the life of the Variator in careful operation. This type of transmission is especially afraid of shock loads, when slipping wheels suddenly gain good grip, and sudden acceleration. 5-speed manual transmissions are available for all engines, but have design differences depending on the engine family. For 4A engines, 1.5 and 1.6, there is one unit. For 4B, 1.8 and 2.0, another. At the same time, both boxes are reliable. But you can kill everything, so careless owners should take note. Now the mechanics for Lancer are more expensive than the Variator, 75,000 rubles. The interval for changing the oil in the boxes set by the manufacturer is 105,000 kilometers. The 4-speed classic automatic is already overgrown, but unkillable. It is available for 1.5 and 1.6 engines. Servicemen could not remember the weak points of this box. Oil is recommended to be changed at least once every 90,000 kilometers.